this is exploding. And a lot of people are doing it, whether you approve of it or not.
It's just like dusting off the stuff that's inside of me, taking off the blinders that I've been wearing, thinking I can see, and reminding myself who I am.
They're not drugs in the sense that you mean they're drugs. They're not drugs like a heroin.
Right.
They're not drugs like cocaine. They're not that kind of drugs. No one believes that ayahuasca is, no one who understands it thinks this is in that category. I have reconnected to my Judaism in much stronger ways since being introduced to plant medicines. Welcome to the In Search of More podcast. I am your host, Eli Nash. Join me weekly on my quest for more from myself and more from this world. We'll see you on the other side. Ayahuasca. I figured we'd have a discussion about that. And although I've mentioned in a couple conversations, and that I've had personal experiences, I haven't shared personal experiences, which is not characteristic of the way I do things. I think it's important that we do that. This podcast is not a discussion, is not a recommendation for or against, in all scenarios. I know it's a hot topic for a lot of people now. And,
how do you feel about that, with it being a hot topic? And
it's amazing. We have a conversation about this. We got to be talking about these things. Just have a discussion about it. I was speaking to one pretty well-known rabbi, and I said, what do you think about, plant medicines and psychedelics and everything else? And, I don't know, we can reach these same states with other things, like a fairly defensive posture. And I said, how much have you researched it? Well, not that much, but I've spoken to a lot of people over the years who've had experiences, just as someone being out there. I think you should research it. I'm okay. Like, whether you're okay or not, I'm not saying you should do it. Mm-hmm. That may be one way of researching it, but I'm not saying you should do it. That's a personal decision everyone has to make. But what I'm saying is that, like, this is exploding. And a lot of people are doing it, whether you approve of it or not.
Right.
And
why do you think he was so defensive or kind of hands off?
What do I think?
Is it tradition? Is it?
Listen, the war on drugs did something. Right? There was a war on.
A fake war on drugs, but that's for another episode.
Right, but I'm saying there was messaging around it. Say no to drugs. How many people say, I don't want to do this because these are drugs.
Right.
Like, they're not drugs in the sense that you mean they're drugs. They're not drugs like a heroin.
Right.
They're not drugs like cocaine. They're not that kind of drugs. No one believes that ayahuasca is, no one who understands it thinks this is in that category.
All right. It's referred to more as a medicine.
It's referred to more as a medicine, but it actually is a medicine. As one example, someone who takes cocaine, they need more of this because it's a drug. The drug pulls you in.
Right.
Ayahuasca is the reverse. People say the more they do, the more sensitive they become to it. Mm-hmm. So people take quantities the first, second, or third time that are like breakthrough quantities. Like, in order for the medicine to penetrate the shield that someone's built up around themselves, sometimes take larger quantities. And over time, people will talk about how, not in my experience with it, and I don't have that much time with it, but people who've worked with these medicines for longer and longer, they say how they're able to access similar states with the medicine through maybe listening to a song that they listen to on medicine. Mm-hmm. Just maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know that people have these experiences with cocaine.
Right.
It's like I was listening to this music on cocaine.
There's definitely people out there that like listen to a song and it reminds them when they did a bump, for sure.
Well, it reminds them, and then what do they want to do with that?
Right. They want another bump.
Whereas this allows for the same process and realizations and self-discovery that they can access in the same way, or they don't have to take the same doses, right? Medicines we need less or none of over time. Drugs, medicines we need less of over time or none for the effect that we're looking for from the medicines. Drugs we need more of over time for the effect we're looking for from the drug.
All right.
All that aside, did we finish the point about the rabbi and my thoughts there? Yeah, my feedback to him was just research this, understand this. People are going to be coming to you and asking you questions. People look to you for your opinions on almost everything, right, from politics to world events to, when COVID came out, he was not a scientist, but he was talking a lot about COVID and the lessons from it. I'm like, just pay attention to this. You may want to get ahead of it, you know? And I think as a message to anyone in the spirituality, right? This message to them, someone in spiritual teachings, religious teachings, or anything else, is you now have this whole world of healing that's opened up that's tapping into spirituality in some way. Mm-hmm. For example, a therapist has almost no permission to take their client into the realm of spirituality in and of itself, just by them walking in conversation. Many therapists don't believe in, don't use spirituality, don't touch it, or even if they believe it in their own lives, won't introduce it to their clients. So the whole realm of spirituality is disconnected from healing. With plant medicines, it's part and parcel.
It's intertwined, yeah.
It's intertwined. There's a spiritual quality to these experiences very often. And people some of the healing comes about through knowledge, not in knowledge, through experiential knowledge, through experiences that we have about the universe.
Right. Yeah, that you hit it on the head. It's theory versus practical.
Correct.
Right. In theory, you can understand as much as you can understand, but once you taste it, once you literally and figuratively, but yeah, that's where the real experience.
And then many people come out of plant medicine experiences thirsty for more spirituality. Where are they going to get that from? Not their therapist, who often doesn't have that. Mm-hmm. So having rabbis, other spiritual leaders who may not themselves be into the plant medicines, but for them to think about, okay, how can my message now be tailored to those people who are having those experiences in some way that they can read healing work that's landing with them because it's coming from a spiritual tradition. Mm-hmm. And many people find this. They enter the plant medicines and suddenly there's not many people, myself, I have reconnected to my Judaism in much stronger ways since being introduced to plant medicines. The Sabbath has taken on a meaning that it didn't have previously. Kosher and a sensitivity to the food that we put in our bodies and the energies that they have. Plant medicines has given me an appreciation for that in a way that no rabbi, no book, no teaching around kosher ever has, because that was information and this was experience. Mm. This was the experience.
Right. So take us on a journey.
So I wanted to share one of my experience. Well, I want to share one of my experiences, and in some way, it's connected to whatever it is many people behind the microphone are doing. So it's a message almost to the, and not only microphone, to the teachers, healers, practitioners of all kind, anyone in this space mm-hmm. of wanting to share a message, maybe with a microphone or doing a one-on-one breathwork practice with people, or in the Tantra community. It doesn't matter what it is. If in that world, you're teaching something, you're delivering, you're healing something in some way, this is a message for them. And it's a message for me, because in some way I'm in this as well. So first of all, just in terms of the one experience that'll lead me into the main point I'm making. One experience was that the only real message that any of us need to know is breathe. That's it. If we learn how to breathe moment to moment, then there will be nothing that sticks to us in the form of illness, spiritual illness, physical illness. Any of those things won't come in. And for people who have resistance to the physical illness comment, just listen to a conversation we're going to post about this specifically, physical illness and plant medicines. But if we learn how to, back to that, the only lesson we need to know is how to breathe. Mm. If we know how to breathe, this was a plant medicine experience. If we know how to breathe, then everything in our life is smooth. Mm. Once we don't, then different things attach to us. Meaning, fear is the enemy. What is a fear? Physiologically, short breathing. Something happened, either in my mind or physically in the world. Mm-hmm. Sometimes usually a combination of the two, that's led me now to breathe in short, right? State of fear. And even if someone's having anxiety and they're not in a short breath, there is going to be a shortness to the breath. For example, a baby, you watch a baby breathe, right? The stomach is all the way out, full breath, back, right? Baby at 1 day, 7 days, 10 days.
Right.
Any parent wants to check if their child is breathing. At the youngest age, you can just look at the belly and it's going to be doing
Right.
right? Every single breath. In a state of fear, we'll do a lot less of that. Okay, so there's breathing is all we got to know. If every single moment, every single experience, we're able to take in and let go, take in and let, but what comes in goes out, then we will not attach ourselves to any of these things, right? In Buddhism, they say, right, life is suffering in the sense that the struggle in life is that we suffer, and all suffering, Buddhism teaches, all suffering comes through attachment or attachment to stuff. So an experience comes in, beautiful experience, and instead of, okay, I had a beautiful experience and now it's out. I had a beautiful experience. I want to have that again. You're attached. The next time you go back to this restaurant and the service and food is not up to par in the same way, now you're upset. So it sounds good. I'm holding on to a good experience. It's not good.
Right.
From this perspective, it's not good at all, because now you're holding on to something that you can compare everything to. In other words, you took something in that you didn't breathe out. Okay. So once we don't breathe correctly, then we need a healer to come in and fix what's happened from not breathing correctly. Right? We didn't take in what we get out. If every experience that we had day to day, good or bad, we didn't even label good or bad, they just were experiences that went through, then there would be none of these attachments. But because we're human, we do attach. Therefore, we need two kinds of peoples in our life: teachers and healers. The teacher's job is to teach us how to breathe. The healer's job is to heal us from not breathing properly. So sometimes a teacher is not enough. You can know everything correctly from this moment on, but there's an illness that formed. Bring in the healer. Let it heal. So in this separation of teachers and healers, right? So I'm speaking to all of those, and there are many different modalities that exist to be either one or the other. So I'm speaking to them, and this was an actual experience. And what's so powerful, and maybe during this conversation, you'll share some of yours, right? Something that there's no amount of therapy, books I could have read, or anything else to experience this reality. And the reality is, right, the reality that I experienced was that it truly is all about us, in the sense of we are patient zero, always and forever. We think we're healing. We think we're teaching. We're not teaching anybody. We're not healing anybody. We're teaching ourselves, and we're healing ourselves. That's it. There's nothing we need to give to anyone else. In that process, some people will benefit.
Right.
But this is not about them. We didn't come here to fix them. We came here to fix us. And everything is forever coming back to ourselves. And so I'll share a specific experience. It was an ayahuasca experience. And at the time, I was struggling with a lot of, people in my life, some closer, some more distant, which were in various parts of their healing journey that I didn't agree with in some way, right? So it's often easier to work with someone who's at a distance, someone who I've never spoken to, calls me. Then I'm not going to attach myself too strongly to their experience. Sometimes I will, but oftentimes it'll be much easier for me not to. But if there's a close family member, first cousin, who's struggling with an addiction and they're tearing the family apart, that's going to weigh on me in a different way. I'm going to have judgments. I'm going to have opinions. I'm going to have desires. I'm going to have all of those things attached to it. So I went into that experience with this thought almost that I need to help all these people. And I'm hoping that this will show me how I can help.
That was your intention.
These people. Yeah. But my intention was also that there was a burden on me that I was feeling, right? Some of it was weighing heavily on me emotionally and physically. It was right? It affects you.
Mm-hmm.
It's someone's addiction is tearing a family apart, and you're connected to that family, and you're watching this happen, and then you feel like, hey, based on my experience and based on what I talk about and based on what I do, I should be in a position to do something about this, and I'm not. So there's a helplessness that sets in. There's all these other stories that we start telling ourselves. As I go into the experience, it said, like, Ellie, you're not here to help anyone. And it proved it to me. Proved it to me. I'll tell you how it proved it to me.
Yeah, tell me how.
So if I was here to help people, who are the people I'm most qualified to help? Probably people who've experienced exactly what I've experienced.
Okay.
Right. So one of the things it showed me is that in order to help someone, well, that's not the point. The point is to help ourselves. But in order to help someone, we have to not be overwhelmed by them. Once we get overwhelmed by their problem, then we're part of the problem. We're not part of the solution anymore. And we can get overwhelmed with judgment, overwhelmed with fear, overwhelmed with all sorts of other things. So we're examples of places where I don't get overwhelmed. People who are struggling with sex addiction, for the most part, do not overwhelm me.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, because I know the struggle so intimately. I know the pitfalls. I know how someone can be improving for 2 or 3 years and suddenly, out of nowhere, take a turn. Everything seems to be going better. They're sober, everything else. And all of a sudden, it takes a turn. They want to throw everything away. They start engaging in behaviors that are once again risky. They seem to have picked up their addiction right where it left off.
Right.
And as someone who's been involved with that person's healing journey early on in the process, I'm like, oh man, like this person's losing everything. And now I'm able to zoom out and see it for what it is and understand healing is not linear. Healing goes through a process that often looks like 2 steps back, 1 step forward.
Mm-hmm.
I'm healing now, I'm not. I'm healing now, I'm not. And if we know that journey, then we see how sometimes, and this is especially true, like right when someone is so close to the breakthrough, it's like all of this intensity comes. And there's often this, relapses will happen and a lot of other struggle, emotional fights in their lives. Like suddenly there's an intensity in their life that wasn't there previously, and they'll start telling themselves, oh man, I'm losing everything. I was sober for 2 years and now I slipped. I lost my 2 years of sobriety. This is one of the biggest mistakes I find within the 12 steps meetings is the chip system that they use to celebrate periods of abstinence, which is meant to be as a tool and a motivational tool. Some people turn into the purpose. How long are you sober? We say the message in 12 steps 1 day at a time, but unfortunately, because we're humans and we get around a room and our egos come out and we see one person get a standing ovation for having 5 years sobriety and we only have 30 days, we feel less than.
Right.
And when we get to 5, there that guy is celebrating 10.
Right.
And on we go, doing this comparison game, and it become very dangerous for our recovery. But having watched this for a long time within sex addiction, I see it. I understand the way these things can go, and I don't get overwhelmed by it. So those people, I'm able to help. I've had sponsees who relapsed after very long periods, and they expect to call me with massive and that I should be very disappointed in them. I should have known better, everything else. I'm like, but if you knew better, you would have done better. So obviously you didn't. So what did you learn? Was it worth learning that? Right. And we'll go through this conversation. There is no overwhelm. And what I was shown on this ayahuasca experience was that those people are not coming into my life as frequently as they once were, because I can help them, but it doesn't help me. So the problems that are being thrown at me suddenly are overwhelming me. Why is that? Because it never was about them. It always was about us. It always was about me. I am patient zero, always and forever. The problem is me. The solution is me. The reason these people are coming into my life is not to help them. I don't do this podcast to help anyone. I do it to help myself. That's why we do it. We are patient zero. We are number one. And I mean, it showed me this with an intensity.
How did it show it to you?
I mean, they say it's like they say it's a journey, right? It started off, which is like, for those who've experienced ayahuasca, it feels like something's being communicated to you very clearly. It's being communicated, whether someone will hear a voice or just a knowledge that this is being said. And I've tried to challenge it and it's like responded back. And in this experience was like, Eli, you've been here before. This is how this one's going to work. I'm going to teach you a breath. You keep to the breath. Pleasant, easy journey. You don't keep to the breath, we're taking you to hell. I was like, whoa. And I tested it during it. As I started like slipping from the breath, like that dark, I can feel it now. Maybe you can see it like that. You're like, whoa. So, okay, all I got to do, I mean, it's 4 hours, right? However long it is.
So you physically felt this?
Yeah, I feel it now, right? When I, like that reminder, right? All I got to do is breathe. All I got to do is breathe. And if I stay in that breath, everything will be good. And it taught me a specific breath, which I don't have to go into now.
Right.
And there were some physical symptoms in my body that started coming up every single time I thought of certain people. It's like, wow, and you see what's going on. You're judging this person for being in fear of making the wrong decisions.
Like what kind of symptoms?
It was a cough, in my case, but that was something I was experiencing in my life. So you're judging this person for being in a state of fear. That's what you're judging. So you're judging them for being stuck as a result of the fear they're in. What are you stuck in? Judgment. So who's this really about? Their fear or your judgment? So we're coming back around to you. You are patient zero. I am patient zero forever. I am not in their life to teach them about fear. They are in my life to teach me about judgment. Because if all of this was about helping people, then show me the people that don't overwhelm me. And they'd be lining up my door constantly, but they're not. And it proved to me over time, say, look at the people who are coming into your life. You consistently are getting overwhelmed. Then you learn something from them, and then to the next. I don't doubt that there's something for that person, right? My point is to healers, to teachers, to everyone else is the reminder, we are patient zero. I am patient zero. Always and forever, I am patient zero. The work starts here. This is why we're doing this.
Yeah, that definitely lands. And I think about my own experience with ayahuasca and what it's done for me. And yeah, it's kind of all rooted in me and what I need to do in my day to day. And just by extension, the people closest to me benefit from it. Cool. But
Correct.
It's really about me.
Right. Meaning we didn't come to this planet to save the planet.
Mm-hmm.
We came to the planet to save ourselves. Like our job is us.
Right.
Our mission is me. The corner of the world that we're trying to fix is us. That's the corner of the world we're given to fix, not you. Right. Us.
Do you feel like that that perspective, right, that sort of standing in that truth is not being properly represented by the healers, the teachers, the influencers out there that are doing this?
Not at all. There seems to be this message continuously. I learned something. I know it. You don't. I'm going to teach it to you. Who learns more? Who learns more, a student or a teacher about a subject?
Who learns more?
Who knows the subject better? The teacher or the student?
Say the teacher?
The teacher.
Right.
That process of being forced to teach something requires us to learn something in a way that we didn't have to previously. I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with Rabbi Sheistaub where the thought was he and I were both going to learn a certain chapter of Hasidic philosophy, a certain teaching, and then he and I were going to discuss it. I learned that in a way that I hadn't learned a piece of Hasidic philosophy in some time. Why? Because I was standing up, I was getting into a public conversation about this. So who needed to learn that? Me or the person who was driving in the car doing 6 things while they listened to maybe partially some of what I was saying? Right. Who needed that?
It's you.
It was me. That's why the teacher learns more than the student, and we continuously forget that. I believe we do. I forgot that, which is why I was reminded of it so intensely. But a lot of what I see is similar. The sense of I found it, and now I'm going to tell you about it. It's why we call this podcast In Search of More. This is a search that we're on. And we do this search publicly because it helps our search in some way.
Right. It's like, hey, we're on a search. and then things start coming to aid that search. Yeah. A particular experience for me that's really resonating with what you say with ayahuasca was one where it literally, that journey literally reminded me to remember who I am. And it was
like in Lion King, remember who you are.
Literally, it was like, remember who you are. And I went into it with the intention, my intentions were kind of all over, but once I started falling into it, I was thinking about like family and how I want to be this example, and I want to, I want to help and I want to teach. And she came right back to me and said, remember who you are, because you've forgotten. So you want to do this, but that's not even really you. That wouldn't be you standing on the pedestal teaching, quote unquote. That's not who you are. Remember who you are. And that really lands. And just for me, like I have people that ask me about it, and I think one of the barriers for sure people think about it is like this loss of control or something, right? Using plant medicine. And for me, it's just like, more than anything, it's been like the craziest reminder. Like, takes the blindfolds off. Like, nothing's new.
Right.
Nothing's like, the epiphanies already, they've been there.
Goodness, yeah.
It's just like dusting off the stuff that's inside of me, taking off the blinders that I've been wearing, thinking I can see, and reminding myself who I am.
Yeah, and there is no loss of control. You want to know why? Because you don't have control.
You don't have control in the first place.
There's a loss of perception of control.
All right.
That's the only thing that ever changes. Is your perception.
Perception, for sure. 100%.
Perception of control changes. So we have that, but for the most part, the experiences are about us.
Right. Yeah. Every time.
When I like my very first experience with plant medicines, and I came home to my wife and I understood some like certain perspectives that I was just missing, like completely missing. So for example, prior to meeting my wife, I was very uncomfortable spending money on myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I would fly coach, even though I was donating money to organizations where that person was flying business. I'm sure the guy who running the organization, but there was this discomfort I had, right? I was a lot of discomfort. And my wife is like, Ellie, it's not okay. And she started pushing me. Hey, you got to treat yourself properly. There's something wrong about being willing to give something to someone that you won't give to yourself. So she pushed me in that way very quickly. In order to defend my worldview, I turned that into, you just want luxury and status and nice things. And that's what this really is about.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first time I did plant medicine, it said, Ellie, when you travel together, that's when she pushes you to fly first class and stay in nice hotels. When she's traveling without you, she's staying in her family member's house. That's not her message. For herself, she'll stay in her sister's house and sleep on the small bed. She's saying for you specifically, this wasn't about status and image. You created that in order to protect the way you're behaving. Anyway, I come home to my wife. That was one example of a perspective that, a total perspective shift, right? This whole story I was telling myself turned out to be false.
Right.
And I let her know that and many, many other things. My first experience, I almost felt like I saw every side of her argument. And I let her know all these things. And she said to me afterwards for months, she was saying, oh, you see, when you did plant medicines, it showed you that I was correct. I said, you don't understand. It's not the way it works. When I go, it's going to show me what I'm doing wrong.
Right.
When you go, it's not going to show me what I'm doing wrong.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right.
Unless you're doing something wrong by allowing me to do that thing wrong.
Right. Right.
Right. That's it. Always shows us about ourselves. And then fortunately she had that experience and now we're getting along again.
Yeah. Every time I've had my experience also, it's always showed me, it's held up a mirror to me every time.
And that doesn't stop. Meaning Someone can do 1,000 experiences. Someone can do 5,000 experiences. Someone can do this every day of their life, and they'll never get to the point that they're all worked out. I love the quote of Ram Dass. He says, if you think you're enlightened, go home to your family. Right? And Ram Dass is someone who the world viewed as very enlightened. Obviously, he was sharing something personal. I can sit here on stage and talk to you about everything in the world. But when I go home to my family, I become a 6-year-old boy just like you do. Right? That's right. Most of us are sharing what we know because this is what we've learned. And on some level, and that's what's I love about listening to Ram Dass, is his self-effacement and how honest and humble he is about his own struggle in the process. So yes, there are many teachers like that. I'm not saying no, but by and large, the message from many is that I have this figured out. Let me say it differently, because actually this is where it came from. Where it came from was someone who was leading a meditation, who I knew. And as he was leading these meditations and becoming more known for leading these meditations, he called me to share with me the struggle that he had kept from me for several months. Previously in our relationship, before he was leading these meditations, who had been very comfortable calling me, sharing this with me. But what he said to me was very interesting, and it caught my attention. He said, when he finally shared it with me, it was like, the struggle had come. He hadn't done what he knew to do, which is we share a struggle with someone else, right, who has some experience with this. And in that process, they can help shine a mirror to our own lives and see how we're seeing the situation wrong. And then it spins if we don't do that. And it got worse and worse and worse. At a certain point, he got nervous. And he reached out to me for something else. But when he reached out, I said, hey, how you doing? And like right away, like just like went right there. It's like, I'm actually struggling a lot. And when he described to me, I said, why didn't you tell me? We've had these kind of conversations before. And he said, I just felt like I'm supposed to have the answers now. Like I'm the guy leading these meditations. How can I be the one struggling? And it's like, this is such a mistake. This is such a huge mistake. No, you're not.
Somehow you get into that phase or that level, you think you're above.
Right. If people think when I'm talking here, I'm sharing because I have all the answers, the reason they're doing that is they're not listening to what we're saying. And they're comparing us to something else that something's going on. We do not even close. We're working. That's why we're doing it. When I have all the answers, I'll turn off the mic. When I have more of the answers, I'll turn off the mic. I have nothing left to do here from this. This lesson has been learned. But right now, I need this for me to learn the lessons that I need to learn. To heal the things that I need to heal because I didn't breathe properly, and to once again learn how to breathe properly, because that's the only oxygen that I'm really responsible for in this world is my own.